Hello, good morning. It is April 26th, and that is the day after you turned your big assignment in, and you should just be like, whew, sense of relief that it's over. You turned the big one in. The rest of this class is not going to be that hard. We have 2 more assignments, and one being the final. And I will talk about the final in a separate video today, but today we're going to talk about your last assignment. It's social media profile, staying fat for Sarah Burns. This is going to be turned in as a class assignment. So if you are choosing to teach this book in your class, this is where it's going to go. So you are going to make a profile, and I put the Facebook one up here, but I could not find one for Instagram or TikTok or something like that. So we're just going to stick with Facebook. You could change this PDF if you wanted to say other things or add things or make a bigger box, whatever. I am totally flexible. The idea is that we're going to pick one character out of our book, Staying Fat for Sarah Burns, and you're going to create a social media profile for this person. So this is not for younger students. This is not for a classroom for younger kids. This is definitely upper junior high, lower high school. And we're going to talk about the reason why in a little bit. So this is where we're going to turn this in. It's 10 points, so it's not super heavy, so we don't have to worry about stressing out about this, but it's definitely worth a read for this book because you're going to want to have a background on this book. If any of your students are reading it, you're going to want to know what they're reading, and that's a good reason to read this one. Okay, the reason why this book is not appropriate for younger students is because it's been banned. It's been banned on a couple different high school libraries, junior high libraries, because it has a lot of adult issues in it. This book will have a lot of sexual connotation in it. It will have abuse. It will have references to pornography. It will have things that a lot of social interactions between high school students, your image, your self-image, how you feel about yourself and self-worth with a sexual connotation running through it. So this is not for all classrooms, but I would encourage you to read it. The reason why is because a lot of high school English teachers, and even the edge, junior high, 8th grade, 9th grade English teachers choose to read banned books because there's a lot of worth in banned books. Just because one person feels it's a bad book does not make it a bad book all the way across the board. So I pulled up this article from the Washington Post on why your kids should read banned books. And some of the books that have been banned in the past might surprise you. So Huckleberry Finn, Catcher in the Rye, Great Gatsby, Native Son, Captain Underpants. Did anybody read that when you were little? They have all been either banned or somebody has tried to ban them from public or school libraries. Same with this book as well. This book has been on the banned list for a couple different places throughout the United States. So if we look at some of these books now, I have read The Red Badge of Courage, and I read it when I was probably in 8th grade. And it was banned for its graphic depictions of war. It was a tough book to read, for sure, because you have all those aspects of war. But after reading that, I didn't have a Pollyanna view of the world. I saw a real-life view of what war could end up being like, and it was terrible. It was horrible. But that connection and me reading those gory, awful things in that book, in my malleable brain at age of 15 or 14, really remembered that. And so then when I looked in those history classes that I had taken, and they said, war broke out, I instantly went back to that story, The Red Badge of Courage, because I knew what it was going to be like. In my head, I saw the blood, and I saw the death, and it was terrible. But had I not read that, those connections I made throughout history classes weren't nearly as strong. I'm not promoting banned books. I just want them to be on your radar. I want them to be on your radar as maybe something you will think about. Another one, the reason why we would teach that, not only because of connections, is that kids crave relatable books. Not every kid is growing up with a 2-parent household and everything is happy and Disney princesses and everything's happy ending after all. So if you've ever read The Outsiders, that was banned by quite a few middle school sites because middle schools because it talked about the big things in this world, like grief and divorce and sexual assault and bullying and sexual identity and prejudice, the whole thing. But if our students are going to learn about this, wouldn't we rather learn about this in a place where it's supportive and understanding and we can talk things out? depending on how your classrooms run. Again, we're talking very upper end junior high. Oh, another reason why you'd want to have banned books in your classroom is because of the controversial books are a type of virtual reality. So if we think this is too hard to have in our classroom, what do you think those students are seeing online? What do you think they're doing at video games? Think of every song on the radio. It's got some kind of sexual innuendo in through it. Sitcoms are always the jokes about the relationships or prejudice or sex. It's one of those things that is in our world, and if we teach our students about this in a safe way, that could be something to think about. I'm not promoting this, I'm not dissing it, I'm just throwing this out there for you to make that call on your own. I have read Roll of Thunder, Hear Me Cry in a classroom before. I did it with 6th graders, and this book was so powerful. I was crying, the students were crying. We had such a deep connection to this family. It was about a black family living in the 1930s, and it had racial slurs, and I flat out told the students before we started this, I said, this is going to be something that we read in this book. I am not going to read it out loud in a manner that is disruptive or disrespectful in any way. I am just reading what was on the page. It was such a powerful book because we saw ourselves in that family, and it was horrifying, some of the situations that they had to go through. But you can't tell me, since my students and we did this in a supportive and very open classroom, that they're going to listen to that story later on or hear that title later on and oh my gosh, I have a little bit more empathy to somebody who was going through those racial issues back in the 30s. It was a powerful book, but it's also banned on the banned list. So it will also start conversations. There are some tough conversations in this world that are going to be hard to talk about. And we don't ever want to give our opinion about, politics and big life things that are going in the world. We, as educators, are here to, give information, both sides. So it's sometimes if we give the information to those students and they will start the conversation of where they feel about different aspects of the world and where they stand. And I'm sure you've heard that the Harry Potter books have been banned in some places because they felt they promoted magic and black magic. I know the Catholic school I used to teach at did take the Harry Potter books out of their library. The teachers did not take them out of their classroom. I've read all the Harry Potter books and I think they're fantastic, and I don't feel that needs to be banned at all. Again, your classroom, your choice. So another reason why that we would, I'm going to another website here, and it's called helpteaching.com. And another reason why we want to kind of talk about banned books is because it promotes free speech. If we teach our students that you can be able to say anything through story that, that's going to give you one of the greatest freedoms we have in this country that we live in. It's amazing that we have that right. So they should be able to exercise it as best they can. There are some books that are just banned for really ridiculous reasons, and I want to kind of highlight this part right in here. So there has been that Shel Silverstein's A Light in the Attic has been banned in one elementary school because they felt it was going to encourage children to break the dishes instead of dry them. If you know the poem I'm talking about, it was about this little guy who did not want to do the dishes, and so they just broke them instead of doing them. Really? Do you think if a kid sees a poem like that, they're not going to dry their dishes, they're going to break them? So, if you know Harriet the Spy, Harriet the Spy is one of my favorite books when I was little. Well, that's been banned or tried to be banned in an elementary classroom because they thought spying means that you would tell too many lies and too much mischief, like you were being mischievous. Okay? How you want to do that, it's up to you. Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret was banned because it talked about a girl getting her period. Well, that's biology, so take that or leave it. Brown Bear, What Do You See? Is a classic kindergarten preschool book teaching about colors. That was banned because an author with the same name had wrote a book about Marxism. So you think how ridiculous some of these things are to be banned. Now, that being said, when you read this, this is going to be something that you will have to decide, if you are ever going to teach upper, junior high, lower high school lit, if this is going to be something you are going to be doing. I will have to tell you, in my experience, the more edgy the book, the more likely you're going to get the student to read it. So, yes, the really Pollyanna books from 3rd and 4th grade are fabulous for 3rd and 4th graders, but you cannot expect, a 16-year-old kid to read something that some 4th graders, it'll be a 4th grade mentality. Does that make sense? So when you were reading about these adult situations, it is possible that that will get them to read. So if you get them to read a book that is more like the world that they're going through as of right now, you're more likely to get them to read. Now, personally, I started reading books like when I was younger, and I've read book after book after book after book after book. And there are so many times that I came across, because I was a nerd. You will laugh at how nerdy I am. If I ever get to meet you in real life, you'll be like, oh my God, Annie, that's how bad I am. But when I was little, I went to the library, in my local library, and I thought, I am going to read every book in this library. That was my goal. And it must have been probably 4th grade, somewhere by 4th grade year. And I thought, this is what I'm going to do. So I went, ride my bike to the library, and I would start on the shelf, and I would read this one, and this one, and this one. And of course it never happened, because I got, halfway through the A's, and then I was like, this is ridiculous. But there was some books that I ran into that my eyes were like bugging out of my head. I couldn't believe that they were actually talking about this stuff in a book. I couldn't believe you talked about divorce and grief and, boyfriends and girlfriends and all this stuff that just like made my eyes pop out. Did it hurt me as a person learning about this stuff in the world at a younger age? No, but it did make me curious about what else is out there. If they can talk about this in a book, what else can they talk about in a book? And so then I read over and over and over, like this book after book after book. And I think I had a pretty wide range of knowledge by the time I got into like upper junior high school, because I've read so much before. That is how nerdy I am. I get it. So then if you think about how do you want to have your classroom looked upon if you are teaching upper junior high and high school, you want it to be, in my opinion, you'd want it to be a safe spot. You'd want students to feel comfortable, and you are the only person that's going to be able to know and understand your class, versus anybody who's doing a curriculum in your classroom, like for your classroom. So you decide, can my kids handle this? Do I want them to handle this? How am I going to handle a book like this? Do I need to make sure parameters are in place before we start something like this? Totally up to you. If you are choosing not to teach banned books in your classroom, completely fine. But you should be reading them though, because if you are reading them, you will see if some student picks one off the shelf for free reading time, you want to know what they're getting into, because then you can help support those conversations later on. So if a child is going, or like a junior high school, is going to the library, picking out a book on their own for free choice reading, and they pick something like this, it's good for you to have background in this so you'll be able to support those conversations if they come up. Okay, so your assignment is to upload right here the social media profile for one of the characters in this book. It can be Sarah, the main character, or her friend. I think her friend's name is Eric. Yeah, Eric. And then those two are the main two, but there are other people in the book as well, so you can pick what you want. This is not going to take you long. If you are into some of these kind of controversial books, you will get through this in like a night. Seriously, it's be one of those page turners that's going to keep you reading for sure. So we will do that. I will just have you put it up on this. There will be no discussion this week, so just put it into this form, and we will call it good. This will be due May 2nd, which is Sunday night. Let me know how you're doing. For those of you who haven't turned in your big assignment yet, get a hold of me. I have talked to 2 of you, but the rest of you, thanks for turning that in. I hope you feel a sense of relief this week, and I hope you see the light at the end of the tunnel. Stay tuned for the final video, and I will, not the final video, I'll do the final video in a couple weeks, but the video that's going to be explaining our final project. Okay, let me know if you have any questions. Thanks, guys.